Welcome back to another episode of Rock Boys Football. 5 most important breakout players for this Arkansas program heading into 2024. And at least in my mind, this is the most exciting conversation to have around Arkansas, but also the most important conversation. Now, you look at this Arkansas team and say, yeah, there's not a ton of proven commodities at the SEC level. And I think as a result of that, a lot of the national media kind of sleeping on this Arkansas team. And I think a lot of Arkansas fans are sitting there and saying, we got a lot of players that are not necessarily proven commodities in the SEC yet, but have really high ceilings as football players. And if you get breakout performances from some of these players, this Arkansas team can be really exciting in 2024. But I think that's kind of where you need to see Arkansas put it together, is with some of these young guys, some of the guys coming through the portal. Can they put it together in 2024? That's an exciting conversation to have for Arkansas. Fired up to get into it. Before we do, and as always, just want to say thank you to you guys, to the Arkansas fans. It's been a blast taking deep dives into a lot of different angles within this program. The amount of support you guys have shown truly does mean a lot. If y'all do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel, but much more importantly, would love to hear from you guys in the comment section. I had about 18 players that I kind of had in my breakout list, narrowed it down to the five most important. I would love to hear some more breakout players from you guys as well in the comment section. I always learn a ton from you guys. And without further ado, let's get into what I think is the most important unit for this Arkansas team heading into 2024, and that's the offensive line. And you make no mistake about it, it was really ugly for Arkansas on the offensive line last year. They seemingly could just not find the right recipe up front. I know guys were struggling with injuries, but you look at where Arkansas struggled the most. Yes, the offensive coordinator, the play caller, that was a problem. There's no way around that, but it's really hard to call an offense when you have an offensive line that was, quite frankly, one of the worst in the SEC. You take a look at some of the numbers. KJ Jefferson sacked 13% of his dropbacks. That was dead last in the ACC, almost dead last in the country. They were only running the football for 3.6 yards per carry. That was 106 in the country. You go back to when this Arkansas team was at its heights with Sam Pittman, one of the dangerous teams in the SEC. It was because they had a really good offensive line. And you go back to 2023 and say that simply wasn't the case. Now, one thing that excites me is, one, this Arkansas offensive line is massive. I mean, the average 5 starters are probably going to be around 315, 320 pounds. This is going to be a big, physically imposing group. But most importantly, Sam Pittman went out and addressed exactly what they needed to address, and that was the offensive tackle spot. And a guy in Fernando Carmona, if he can come in from San Jose State and be a very quality left tackle for Arkansas in the SEC, that's going to mean massive things for this Arkansas offense. Because again, you look at what are the keys to success for Arkansas in 2024. It starts with running the football, keeping a guy like Taylor Green in this Arkansas offense on schedule, and protecting the quarterback. 2 things that Arkansas just couldn't do last year. Guy in Fernando Carmona, road grader in the run game, phenomenal athlete in pass protection, only gave up 9 quarterback hurries last year at San Jose State. If you can get a rock at the left tackle spot, I kind of like what they are on the inside. I think they move some tackles to the inside that are just better suited to play on the inside of the offensive line. I look at this Arkansas offensive line and say there's reasons to believe that they get much better heading into 2024. And if that does in fact happen, I mean, that is step 1 in terms of Arkansas getting back on track in 2024. Fernando Carmona, probably one of the most important players on this Arkansas team. Going to number 2, we have to go with Taylor Green, the quarterback. Now, I had my questions about Taylor Green coming from Boise State to Arkansas, where he was just, for lack of better terms, inconsistent. It was a roller coaster with Taylor Green. But I think what excites you the most if you're an Arkansas fan is the upside with Taylor Green is extremely high. Like, this is not a quote-unquote Cade McNamara kind of player that's just going to give you solid play. He can give you excellent play in the SEC if he does put it together. The traits are there with Taylor Green. And then you go to the spring game and say that Taylor Green looks like a quarterback that has finally put it together during his college football career. Now, can he translate that spring game success into the 2024 season? That's a massive story. And I think another big time story here is Coach Petrino taking over this offense. This is a no-brainer in terms of an upgrade of your offensive play caller, but more specifically, Coach Petrino has had a ton of success with these kind of quarterbacks in terms of getting him out of the pocket, using his legs, letting him play to his best ability, and using his physical traits to let him be the best quarterback he can be. You go back to KJ Jefferson in 2023 with the offensive play calling, they treated KJ Jefferson like just a pocket passer. They didn't let him use his legs as much. They didn't get him outside the pocket. And as a result, you got the worst season you saw from KJ Jefferson during his career at Arkansas. Bobby Petrino is a mastermind at using these quarterbacks and getting the best out of these kind of quarterbacks. And what excites the Arkansas fans the most, at least in my mind, is if you get the best out of Taylor Green, this is a difference maker at the quarterback spot. You just have to have him put it together. He's been inconsistent during his last couple of years at Boise State, but the traits are there for him to be a dynamic quarterback that you can win a lot of football games with. Now the question is, can you make that happen in 2024? Last guy on the offensive side of the football coming in at number 3, and that is the running back transfer, Jaquindon Jackson, who you go back to the 2022 year, you would be hard-pressed to find many running backs that were better than Jaquindon Jackson in 2022. Now, kind of had a quote-unquote down year in 2023. He was still pretty solid. Now, why I went with Jaquindon Jackson as one of the most important breakout players, one, Arkansas needs to run the football better. I think it starts with the offensive line, but it certainly starts at the running back position too, with Rocket Sanders just dealing with so many of those injuries, just not being the kind of running back that we all expected. That running game struggled. Now, Jaquindon Jackson, why I think he's so important is this is, one of the most physically imposing running backs that you see in the country. Can he keep Arkansas on schedule in 2024 is a massive storyline. He deals with contact exceptionally well. He routinely falls forward. You look at Arkansas last year and say, way too many third and long situations, way too many times putting an offensive line that struggled in pass protection in bad spots in those third and long situations. You look at Taylor Green, you look at how Coach Petrino wants to run this offense. It's going to be predicated on running the football, staying on schedule, staying in those, 2nd and 5s, those 3rd and 2s. And if you can do that with a running back like Jaquindon Jackson, that's a massive storyline for this Arkansas offense. And I think Jaquindon Jackson is the ideal running back to kind of keep you on schedule with your offense because, again, the physicality, how he gets downhill as a running back, that's what stands out to you the most. You got a big, physically imposing offensive line. Again, I think the average weight's going to be around 320 pounds for your starters on the offensive line, with a 240-pound running back that is just kind of a Mack truck getting downhill. I kind of like the bones of what this Arkansas team can be running the football, not to mention you have a dynamic quarterback in Taylor Green that can also make it happen with his legs. Running the football is going to be at a premium, and you need to get it done for Arkansas in 2024. If you get breakout performances from guys like Fernando Carmona, from guys like Jaquindon Jackson, this Arkansas team can run the football. And again, that's what made them so dangerous in the past. That's kind of you hope that's what they can get back to in 2024. Now, going to the defensive side of the football, I want to start with one of the young stars in the SEC, quarterback Jalen Braxton. What he did as a true freshman at the quarterback spot was kind of next level. And why I went with Jalen Braxton as one of my most important breakout players for Arkansas. One, we're kind of betting the rules, kind of broke out as a true freshman, but more importantly, if you can get that elite cover cornerback that can kind of just take away a half of the field, you can leave him on an island. I think you can get really creative in terms of how you want to use the rest of this Arkansas defense. You can put safeties in the box. You go back to last year, Arkansas, they struggled to stop the run. They gave up 4.5 yards per carry. That was 80th in the country. Teams ran the ball 57% of the time against Arkansas. If you can have a cornerback that emerges as that true cornerback one, that can take away half of the field, that can take away a wide receiver one, and you can start rolling some safeties into the box to help that run game, that's a massive story. And you look at Jalen Braxton last year, 29 targets, only gave up 12 receptions, a 41% completion percentage when targeted. I think there's a good chance that you're looking at one of the better cornerbacks in the SEC. And if that is indeed the case in 2024, it gets a lot easier to call a defense for this Arkansas program. Going to my last breakout player, another guy that, again, only going into his second year of his college football career, Brad Spence. Now, I'm fired up about this linebacker room because you bring in a former five-star in Xavier Sori. You look at Brad Spence and say, two kind of physical freak shows, two really athletic linebackers, and you have to replace guys like Chris Paul Jr. and Jaheim Thomas. I look at Brad Spence, and I'm just going to say it, Drew Sanders-ish. You look at Brad Spence, what are his skill sets? Yes, he can play that off-ball linebacker spot. He can come up on the line of scrimmage, blitz off the edge with the length and size that he has. You go back to Drew Sanders and the impact that he had on this Arkansas defense, the amount of ways he could impact the football game, and say, I think there's a good chance that Brad Spence could be that kind of guy for Drew Sanders as well. I think all the physical traits are there from what you hear out of spring practice, is that he's a guy from a physical trait standpoint. I'm excited about Brad Spence and can be one of those chess pieces that you can use in a lot of different ways and let him really impact this Arkansas defense. Those are my top 5 guys. And again, I think the most exciting conversation is this Arkansas roster is absolutely full with breakout candidates. Now, if these breakout guys put it together in 2024, that's how this Arkansas team, gets back to a bowl game, gets back to being dangerous in the SEC. Really excited about this team. A lot of different possible outcomes for Arkansas, but at the very least, they can be an exciting team in the SEC. Appreciate you guys rocking with the boys again. Would love to hear from y'all in the comments section. Some of your breakout players, if you will. You get a chance to call your shot in the comments section. Appreciate you guys, and we'll talk to y'all later. Peace.